Thank you for joining us live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our guest today is Frank Calderon from Miami-Dade Solid Waste Department. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So we know that, whoa, bingo, all right? The trash, littering, and dumping stuff on the side of the road is illegal. But let's talk about the differences in the level of that so people can understand what the difference is and what it means to us as a community.
I mean, technically, it's all the same, but there's some distinguishing between litter and illegal dumping. Litter tends to be just smaller amounts. Could be cigarette butts, could be food or candy wrapper, that sort of thing. Whereas illegal dumping, now you're talking about like a pickup truck and you're pushing off an old couch or old boxes, big boxes, empty boxes, or an old TV set, that sort of thing.
Which is very expensive for the county to have to send some people in. And so either code enforcement officer sees it or a neighbor calls and takes the 311 time and back and forth. I was out in horse country, son of a gun, and I'm driving around and I saw there was a guy that has his own security camera and signs, "You are being watched," all right? Because apparently people have been dumping in his thing, and it's right down from a lot of the nurseries, so people think they can just do that, right? So when people dump their trash on other people's property, the homeowner, the property owner, is responsible for that.
Unfortunately, yes. When it's dumped on their property, I mean, like literally on their property, that's not something we handle. It's RER handles it, but it's still the issue that the owner of the property is kind of stuck having to deal with. We come in when it's on the right of way in front of the property. Same thing. It's unfortunate. It kind of falls on the property owner, but if they're able to somehow, document or whatever that it's not that somebody else did it, then they won't be.
So if somebody dumps it on the swale, all right, and it's not on their private property, and they dump it in the swale, but it's outside their property, the county could say, "That's your spot," and go, and let's say it's a big truckload, right? Are they responsible for that? And does it count against them?
Technically would be, but we typically will investigate and look into it. The best way to protect yourself is the minute you see something like that, call it in. Call 311 to report it. And as a matter of fact, it's actually a crime. And going back to distinguishing between litter and illegal dumping, the Florida law that addresses it is actually called the Florida Litter Law. Both illegal dumping and litter. But yeah, call 311. And when I said about breaking a law, if somebody's doing it, like you're inside your house, you look out your window, and you actually see somebody throwing stuff out, don't confront them. You can call 911 because it is a crime in progress. You can report that as a crime in progress. Try to get whatever information you can. The tag is going to be the most helpful piece of information you can get, but anything you can get to identify them, and then you're okay. Then they can't blame you because you reported it.
So recent experience last week, we had our yard guy come over, did a big cleanup. My wife called in. Okay, this is the day of your pickup, great. And then one night I go home and I'm going, "That's not from our yard." And I go, somebody's, "How do you know?" I said, "Because it's cut so cleanly." I think that's not from us. So she took a picture and called and said that pile keeps growing. And it did significantly over just 3 or 4 days. It grew a lot because we're in a landscaping area and people think, "Oh, we'll just take it and dump it there." But for the people that are considering illegal dumping, the county has hidden cameras in some of the hot spots.
We have hidden cameras. We have enforcement officers. Some of the cases that we've had in the past involved not even a camera, but the enforcement officers right there. And the people who did it were oblivious. They didn't see the enforcement officer. I don't know what happened, but they dumped right in front of them. They got caught red-handed, literally. We've had cases like that. We've had a lot of cases that have been resolved through hidden cameras. That's really helped.
So our office here is in the city of South Miami, and frequently people, and we're on an alley. It was pretty beat up for a long time, and people would take and they'd use our green dumpster, and it got pretty annoyed. Then they would just leave it on the side. All right, annoying. But the city, thank you very much to the city and the citizens of Miami-Dade County, has completely redid the alley, and the unforeseen circumstances of having a beautiful alley now that you can speed up and down the street. You know what somebody did? They just dumped it right in the middle of the alley. Before, they would at least push it off the road. So I called the city, took a picture. I said, "And it's construction debris filled with nails, 2x4s. So
Wonderful.
somebody driving down this brand new paved road, all right? And there were at least a half a dozen 2x4s with nails all over the place. And so it can be dangerous and expensive as well. And if there's a boat out on the street and it's clearly was dumped there, they still call 311?
Yes. They'll call 311 as long as it's in the public right of way. We'll go out and we'll investigate. We'll try to get some of these people are pretty savvy. They'll take the numbers off the registration numbers. But if we can find any evidence in there elsewhere, or if it happens to be in a spot where we have a hidden camera, we could potentially catch the people that did it.
I remember hearing a while back the police were looking, that the illegal dumping team saw it in motion, somebody dumping stuff, and they sent somebody down there and they caught the guys.
Yes.
Do they get a ticket or do they get arrested?
Depending on the severity, you could get both. Even you could even have your vehicle confiscated. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the limits are. If you are not considered commercial, if you're just like at the average Joe just goes out and dumps a couch. If you're dumping small amounts, the fine might be the smallest amount, which is about $250 plus a $10 fee, so it's really $260. If you are considered commercial, and that could be you're in a U-Haul truck, you're in a vehicle that has commercial markings, or if you are non-commercial but you have a larger amount, and I don't again remember off the top of my head what the exact demarcation point is, but if you're considered either commercial or you're doing excessive, the fine starts to go up, and it can be $1,000. It can go. I believe the highest fine is about $2,500 if I'm not mistaken, and you can get arrested. And your vehicle can be confiscated.
So with all the cameras that are out and all the people that have cameras in their hand, all right?
Yes.
I mean, it's sort of silly to do that. If you got that stuff in your truck or in your car, just go to how many recycling centers?
We have 13 trash and recycling centers. If you receive waste collection service from us, if you have the green card with the county logo on it, you receive service from us. You can use those centers, no charge. They're open every day of the week, including weekends. Most holidays, they only close for 3 holidays every year: 4th of July, Martin Luther King Jr. Day in January, and Christmas Day. Rest of the year they're open, and they're open from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And you can bring it as long as you're a customer. You can, and again, in a non-commercial vehicle, I should make that distinction. I don't want somebody showing up in a U-Haul because they emptied out their house, maybe that they inherited from a relative, and they get turned away. Don't get a U-Haul for that. Use a regular vehicle, no commercial markings, and you should be okay.
But commercial landscapers, if you will, they can buy a permit.
The only exception, yeah,
Right.
They have a special permit,
And they go in.
and they have to pay for every time they dump.
And so they get this permit that's usually up on the side of the truck. They go there, they dump the stuff off, right?
And they pay in advance for coupons. They don't handle cash, or they don't credit card or anything like that. They're at the actual site. What they do is they have the people that landscapers buy these coupons in advance. They used to be $25 a piece. They may have gone up October 1st. I'm not 100% sure how much, but they pay for them, and then they go and they give a coupon every time they come and dump.
Every once in a while, I'll see a big swath of land that's filled with different trash in it. You realize they were dumped there by approval of the owner. You can see it's all done at different times. And then at some point, the owner or the guy that's renting it loads all that stuff up into a big truck. All right, and then they take it someplace. Where would they take that? An 18-wheeler filled with...
We would hope that they would take it to a landfill. They have to be a licensed waste hauler to do that, unless they're paying somebody who is already a licensed waste hauler to do it, like a contractor that they contract out to.
So, all right, so the guy that's got that 18-wheeler, all right, he's a waste hauler, and with the license. Otherwise, what's he going to do with that? What are you going to do with that much trash?
Hopefully, like I said, taking it to a landfill for disposal, and not just going somewhere else and making it some. Oops, sorry, I waved my hand out there. Not just making it somebody else's problem by dumping it out somewhere. Especially in a big truck like that, it would take you some time to actually finish it, and I would hope that somebody would report it.
So let's talk about the county announced that they've taken delivery of their first all-electric vehicle trash waste collection. We would commonly call it a
garbage truck.
Garbage truck. I saw it. It's wonderful. It looks really good. All right. Tell us how that whole thing works.
Well, we got it. We actually, I don't know when it was actually delivered. I want to say August, September. We unveiled it. It's been on a little bit of a tour. We took it to the breakfast with the lady from the local
PBS.
PBS station. We also took it to City of Miami Beach. We had us and transit because they have electric buses, a few electric buses as well. We took it there for the people to see. The interesting thing about this waste collection truck is we believe it's the first one in the country that is going to be powered by what we call waste energy, which is basically what most people don't realize, that most of our waste gets incinerated. To reduce the volume is a primary purpose, but a side effect of that, or a byproduct of that, is that we create electrical energy, and we're talking a big amount of electrical energy, and so that truck is being charged by that electrical energy. So in essence, the very garbage it picks up during the day is being incinerated at night, so that it can power itself basically.
So in looking down the road 5 years, 8 to 10 years, it's possible that at the plant out there in Doral, there's going to be a line of trucks
We
that
could
are
have
all
a
getting
fleet.
charged
That's
up.
the dream of our department director, is that we have an entire fleet of the waste collection vehicles that pick up garbage during the day, and then that same garbage gets incinerated at night, makes electricity to charge the vehicles back up.
It is extraordinary that, number one, it's there, and number two, that 50 years ago, Walt Disney people had it right? Who knew? But there was a dream that one day those type of things, and there'd be people flying around, and we call them drones now, all right? Not too far off, all right?
Yeah.
And I see Honda's now doing a commercial for electrically driven mini planes, like taxi cabs driving around. I'm not getting in it, but who knows? So the plant out in Doral, it operates. What are the hours of operation there?
Oh, they're actually as far as the power plant,
Yep.
that's 24 hours. They accept waste like really ridiculously early, 4 or 5 in the morning, until I don't know how late they go, off the top of my head. But the electrical power plant has to go all the time, because we actually sell a lot of that electricity to the city of Homestead, and they're like FPL customers. They want the power on. If they wake up in the middle of the night to go get a drink of water or whatever, flip the switch and the power's on. It needs to be on, so that they have to operate, and they have to operate. And that includes the holidays and everything.
Well, it's extraordinary to see that. The city of Homestead's had that power plant there for decades, right?
I don't know how they powered themselves. I know that they have their own utility. They have had their own utility for decades. So the people that are, and I don't know where the actual lines separate, but people that live there for the most part are not FPL customers. They actually get the power from the city,
And
but the city has to buy from someone to produce it.
It's a point of pride for the people, for the administration, and for the Homestead, and the people that
We keep it at home.
we have our own place there, which is really extraordinary. So, if we could, let's talk about the green garbage carts that are out there. All right, pick up twice a week.
Yes.
All right, around 340,000 people
340,000 households. Yeah.
times 2.
Times 2, they get picked up twice a week. Yes, Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday.
And how many homes do these trucks stop at?
Each truck, roughly
What?
1,100 on their route.
That means start, stop, start,
Yes,
stop.
there's
start,
a lot of
stop.
starting and stopping. Yeah,
And
And
it's just it's like every 150 feet or every 200 feet.
pretty much. And I imagine they get really good, after you do that for a while with a joystick and looking in the mirror, and you're kind of you're doing things kind of in reverse, because you're looking through a mirror to do it. You're not looking directly. So your mind has to function properly where you can get the.
And you have to practice using
They get
cameras,
trained.
right?
Well, they get trained on all that stuff, but still, it's
So
it's amazing.
On a humorous note, my wife says, you have to start using that camera in your truck and this. Okay, so I step out of the house one day, I look, and we have a straight and curved driveway. I look, I see her car. I see a car. I get in. I'm using the cameras. I go, what was that I just did? $2,500. I ran right into it, smacked right into it. So you have to be
I
trained.
use both. Mirrors and cameras. Don't trust one or the other. Use both.
So these guys and ladies that do that, it's extraordinary. So they drive the truck. They have to put that arm out by joystick. They look at it when it goes into the dumpster, right? And then it gets compressed, right?
Yeah.
All right. And what are some things people put in the green cans that they should not put in those green carts?
One of the big ones I would say is there's a lot of different things, but one of the big ones is anything that's flammable or explosive, like propane tanks, like the big 25-pound propane tanks that people have for their barbecue grills. We sometimes find those in there. That's a huge no-no. Any lithium or rechargeable type batteries, we can take the standard disposable batteries, AA, AAA, C, D, 9 volt. Those batteries, like the Everready or the or Duracell or whatever, that's fine. But lithium is flammable, so no. Rechargeable batteries of any kind are mostly lithium. Any specialty weird battery, we don't take it in there. If you have old ammunition, call a gun shop or something, or a range and see if they can help you dispose of it. You do not put that in the garbage either, because that's dangerous.
I think for the most part, we have to rise above what you could get away with and get to the point of doing the right thing with that. Because you could put that in there and you'll never know the consequence of it for the most part. But doing the right thing is more important than this momentary of like, what do I do with this, right? When you have when your garbage trucks go out and pick it up and it goes to the plant, what determines whether it goes to a plant to be burned up or to go to a landfill?
Mostly it's there's certain materials that we can't process there. Mattresses are a big one because they're a mix of material. You usually have the cloth, you have the padding, you have the cloth cover, and then you have the metal coils inside, because that's kind of a mix. And the plant just doesn't have the ability to shred it and separate the materials. They won't take them. Those usually end up going to landfills. Other things, sad to say, if you find a dead animal on the street, which, by the way, you've asked me that question for a long time. I didn't have the answer. I found it recently. Animal control is the place you call if it's in the right of way. They take their bodies there because that really can't be incinerated.
So when we think about where we are as a world and our trash that we create for living, right, and rubbish and all that stuff, so we're burning a lot of it, all right. All the other stuff winds up going into landfills. Some gets recycled, all right, but still stuff goes in the landfill. Is there like an end to the space? What does that look like?
There is. That's why we have this plant more than anything. If we didn't have it, we would probably already have come to the end of the space. What happens is, I don't know if you remember, I remember this from back in the 80s. New York City had they actually have ships for garbage. Mm-hmm. They had a huge barge filled with garbage, and I feel sorry for the crew and captain of that ship because they went everywhere and people were turning them down. And I don't know what ended up happening. I think they stayed afloat on the sea for a number of years before finally somebody took the garbage. But it's like everywhere they went, nope, we don't want it. Nope, we don't want it. It got publicity because of that. And, it just became like a big mess for the people. You run out of space, you have to, then your options become a lot more expensive. You have to ship it out and ship it to some other place where they have space for landfill. That's one option. The waste to energy plant that we have is another option. Of course, one of the best options, and I know our mayor is working on this, is what we call zero waste, is to try to reduce the waste stream in the first place. Try to, wherever you can, reduce packaging or buy products that are sold with reduced or less packaging or even no packaging. And little things like that can add up and help.
So I see that Amazon gives you an option whether you want a used box. So one day I get this box, I said, I didn't order that. And I opened it up. No, my thing was on the inside. They reused the box, right? And I don't know if it's any less money, but it feels good to be able to, to do that. So it gets it at least 2 times. And it looks like they're also using some less packaging than they used to.
On the inside, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't use the styrofoam pack, because styrofoam is one of those materials that's kind of hard to, and especially like, it's one thing when it's in blocks and you can just throw it away, but when it's like the little peanuts, those things are so lightweight, they fly away easily and they go all over the place. And so I've seen that they don't use those anymore, at least in my experience.
So the big online companies, they are in the shipping business as well. Before we would be the shipper, we'd go to the store and get it. We would only get the box that it was in, rather than another box around that. So if you will, that's like 15 or 20 years old maximum where that big increase. You know, a lot of the newspaper manufacturing plants started manufacturing boxes because the demand got, and it's still pretty high. So it's interesting to see how that's all going to balance out. So we have Thanksgiving that's coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
And then we have Christmas,
Yes.
Christmas trees, and New Year's. What about the debris that is created from each of those holidays? What do we do?
Well, a lot of the holidays, one thing that's positive is that a lot of the stuff that's created is recyclable. You start getting, people still get paper catalogs. There's nothing like holding a paper catalog and just looking at the pictures. Ooh, I'd like that. Even if it's just like window shopping, it's not the same as going online and which you could still do as well. But even Amazon, we just a couple weeks ago, I just received on my son's behalf, basically, although he's a little bit old for it now, a catalog of toys. Amazon, paper catalog they sent to my house of toys. But you know what? I gave it to him. He loved looking through it. When you're done with those things, they can go in recycling, in our recycling program. Elections coming in about a week. You get all those postcards, political postcards. Those can be recycled. Christmas, there's a lot of things you can recycle. Boxes, those are simple. The gift wrapping paper you get, as long as it's not the foil kind, and as long as the ribbon shouldn't be recycled in our program, because that can actually wind up, tie up things, or get wound up around things. But the paper itself, as long as it's paper, not foil paper, that can be recycled. There's a lot of things that you can do.
So if somebody hasn't been really into recycling, but they want to start something in the house, they could get a separate container and put their aluminum cans in there. They could put in their plastic and glass bottles, right? It's specifically in dishwashing or washing machine soap, even though there's a lot of options, for that. What's the best way to know whether it's recyclable?
Basically, with plastic, if it's a bottle, in a bottle shape, basically with a neck that's narrower than the rest of the body, that's recyclable in our program. And it can be, like you mentioned, dishwashing or laundry detergent, or it could be water bottles or soda bottles, that sort of thing. Any other type of plastic, no. The clamshell type of plastics, no, unfortunately, we can't accept those.
So in the restaurant industry, if you go, sometimes they have these see-through to-go containers.
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know what it's made out of. I don't know if it's plastic or whatever. Is that recyclable?
Not in our program, unfortunately. The good thing, though, is you throw it in the garbage and it's not just going to go to landfill, it's going to get incinerated.
Yeah. So when you say not in our program, you mean there are other parts of the country that may have?
There's places that, you'd have to do a little bit of digging. If you're really like a hardcore recycler and want to recycle that no matter what, there may be places that you could look up online that might take them, but you'd have to ship it to them. And, you have to kind of balance one thing with the other, figure if it's worth it.
You have a young lady that you work with, Jean Marie Massey. She's a recycling manager.
Yes.
A ball of energy, all right? And she brings all this different stuff she shows, all right? Hopefully this year or next year, maybe the county could see where she could go and talk to some classes, for the young kids, because that's really where it starts. I have this unnatural habit when I pull into my driveway at my house, I undo my seatbelt like I'm in a hurry to get out, all right? My grandson, Grandpa, why are you doing that, all right? And that was my reminder. So we know the little kids can remind us about the things that we shouldn't do, which includes not recycling. So people can go, they go to miami-dade.gov/recycling, and they can find out more about the recycling programs.
Yes.
And again, if somebody needs bulk waste pickup, which is landscaping material, et cetera, what do you want them to do?
They can call 311. A very important distinction to make here is that before you put anything out, you need to make the bulky waste appointment. You can do that online, miami-dade.gov/solid waste. Or you can call 311 to do it.
All right. And don't throw litter out your window. Don't throw cigarette butts or any of that stuff. It clogs up the street.
Sometimes gets in the waterways.
And so often, there's enough stuff floating around on the street. When there's a big flood, it tends to get on top of the drain, and you see some people go over and pull it off there. And there's some people now that school's back in session, pretty much. The county has some different programs about keeping some streets clean. It's I guess they get credit for community service. If they want to do that, they should call their local county commissioner for that process?
There's
to begin?
different programs. Some of them, especially the state roads, have Adopt a Street, which
That's it,
have
yeah.
the signs up. We have our own program called Let's Clean Things Up, as long as it's in our service area. And by our service area is basically unincorporated Miami-Dade and the 10 cities where we pick up garbage, not recycling, because like we pick up recycling in South Miami, but not their garbage, so it wouldn't be there. But the cities that where we do garbage pickup, we often try to work with the commissioner's offices on that. We actually did a couple of them out at around Horse Country on that street behind 118th Avenue, that's just west of the Turnpike,
Yep.
just south of the Kendall Regional.
I'm familiar with that street.
We've done a couple of them out there in conjunction with Commissioner Soto, who's actually retiring, and with the new commissioner that's going to be replacing him, and actually who was the state legislator in that area. We actually did a couple pickups
Anthony
in that
Rodriguez.
area. Anthony Rodriguez. Yes.
One of the big advantages of going with a group and going on the street and picking up the stuff, you realize how much stuff is put there by people flicking stuff out their window. It's huge, all right?
Yeah.
So I drive that street frequently, and when you're driving at 35 miles an hour or 40, you don't really see it. But when you're there and you look, you go, look at all the stuff that's in between. You start breaking that stuff up, and it does make a difference. We see as a community when litters fly going up and down the streets, or when it's clean. So my hat's off to all the organizations that try to help those streets stay clean. Want to wish, first of all, happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Hope you and your family
Thanks.
enjoy the togetherness. And there's an old saying, which is, keep politics out of your Thanksgiving dinner. But if you do it, don't worry, you won't have to give out too many Christmas gifts.
I've seen people joking on social media. Say, you want to reduce your Thanksgiving? Let's just say I'm for this person or that person. That's it. You cut out like half of your family or something.
So again, people want information. They go to miamidade.gov/solid waste. And if they don't see the information, they call 311. Very helpful. I call them frequently, and they direct you to the right place. They're very thorough. I think they even say, "Is there anything we can help you with?" And I wish some more stores would say that. Also, one of the things I've learned from this is when I go to a drugstore and I have one or two things, I say keep the bag. All right. As a matter of fact, keep the receipt too.
Reducing waste.
Reducing waste, and at some point that will get back to the manufacturer. We're not using as many bags, all right? And because I know we don't really use them like we used to when we had dogs and cats and stuff. So again, so you can just say to whoever it is, I don't want the bag, it's all right? In the old days, I'd take it out my truck, put the plastic bag into my glove compartment, and it would sit there for, 3 months with the other 10, and then I would wind up throwing them out. But plastic bags, by the way, are not recyclable.
Not in our program.
All right, not in the program.
There are places, but yeah.
Because it turns into like a string material and it ties up the machines.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. Again, Frank Calderon, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
With the Solid Waste Department, folks, have a great day and thank you for joining us. And Alex, thank you for producing the show.